August 3, 1985. The legendary Blue Note Jazz Club in New York City was experiencing one of the most disappointing evenings in its storied history, as performer after performer had failed to capture the attention of an increasingly restless and critical audience that had gathered expecting to witness the kind of musical magic that had made the intimate Greenwich Village venue famous among jazz enthusiasts and music lovers worldwide. The crowd of 200 sophisticated music fans, industry professionals, and jazz aficionados had been growing more frustrated with each lackluster performance, creating an atmosphere of palpable tension and disappointment that threatened to turn one of New York's most prestigious jazz venues into the scene of a legendary musical disaster. Throughout the evening, seasoned musicians who typically commanded respect and admiration from even the most discerning audiences had struggled to connect with the uncharacteristically difficult crowd. With established jazz masters delivering technically proficient but emotionally flat performances that earned only polite applause and barely concealed yawns from audience members who had paid premium prices expecting to experience the transcendent musical moments that the Blue Note had been delivering for decades. The venue's management was becoming increasingly concerned as word began to spread that the Blue Note was hosting a disappointing evening, potentially damaging the club's reputation for consistently presenting the highest quality jazz performances and creating the kind of intimate musical experiences that distinguished it from larger, more commercial entertainment venues throughout the city. But what none of the frustrated audience members, disappointed performers, or worried management could have anticipated was that their evening of musical mediocrity was about to be completely transformed by the unexpected arrival of Prince Rogers Nelson, who had heard about the struggling performances while visiting friends in the city and decided to make an impromptu appearance that would not only salvage the evening, but create one of the most legendary performances in Blue Note history, proving that sometimes the greatest musical magic happens when authentic artistic genius encounters a challenging audience that has given up hope of being moved, inspired, or surprised by what they're witnessing. If you want to discover the moments when Prince proved that true musical magic can transform any situation, and that genuine artistry has the power to turn disappointment into amazement and skepticism into awe, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. What you're about to witness shows that the greatest performers don't just entertain audiences, they transform entire rooms full of people and create experiences that everyone present will remember for the rest of their lives. The Blue Note had been established in 1981 as New York City's premier intimate jazz venue, designed to recreate the authentic atmosphere of the legendary jazz clubs that had defined the Greenwich Village music scene during the genre's golden era. The club's reputation had been built on its commitment to presenting both established jazz legends and promising emerging artists in an environment that prioritized musical excellence over commercial entertainment value. The venue's intimate setting, with its carefully designed acoustics and close proximity between performers and audience, created an atmosphere where musical subtlety and emotional authenticity were not only possible but belasweg. The Blue Note's audiences were typically composed of serious music enthusiasts who understood jazz traditions and appreciated technical excellence. The evening of August 3rd had been scheduled as a showcase for several promising jazz artists, with the excellent intention of providing them exposure to the kind of knowledgeable audience that could advance their careers. However, from the very beginning of the evening, something had been wrong with the usual Blue Note magic that transformed ordinary musical performances into extraordinary shared experiences. The first performer, a highly regarded saxophonist who had recently released a critically acclaimed album, delivered a technically competent but emotionally distant set that failed to create the intimate connection between artist and audience that defined great jazz club performances. Despite his obvious musical skills and the quality of his compositions, the performance felt mechanical and uninspired, earning respectful but unenthusiastic applause. The second act, A piano trio that had received positive reviews from major jazz publications similarly struggled to engage the increasingly restless crowd. Their performance was professionally executed and musically sophisticated, but lacked the spontaneous energy and emotional authenticity that transforms technical proficiency into genuine artistic communication. The audience's response was polite, but clearly disappointed. As the evening progressed and additional performers took the stage, the pattern of technically adequate but emotionally unsatisfying performances continued to disappoint both the audience and the Blue Note management. Each act seemed to be affected by the growing atmosphere of dissatisfaction, creating a negative feedback loop, where the audience's lack of enthusiasm influenced the performers' energy. By the time the evening's headliner took the stage, the Blue Note's usually supportive audience had become one of the most challenging crowds in the venue's history. The headliner, a respected trumpeter with decades of jail experience, struggled against the prevailing atmosphere of disappointment and failed to generate the kind of jail musical excitement that would have salvaged the evening. The club's management faced a serious crisis, as word had begun to spread throughout New York's jazz community that the Blue Note was hosting a disappointing evening. For a venue whose reputation depended entirely on the quality of musical experiences it provided, even one significantly subpar evening could damage relationships with both artists and audiences. It was during this crisis moment, as the final scheduled performer prepared to leave the stage to polite but unenthusiastic applause, that an unexpected figure appeared in the Blue Note's intimate performance space. Prince Rogers Nelson, who had been in New York visiting friends and had heard about the struggling performances at the Blue Note, had decided to make an impromptu appearance to see if he could contribute something positive to what had become a difficult evening. Prince's arrival at the Blue Note created an immediate stir among both the audience and the venue staff, as his presence was completely unexpected, and his reputation as an innovative and unpredictable performer suggested that the evening might take an entirely different direction. However, the audience's initial excitement was differing ride, tempered by their disappointment with the earlier performances and their skepticism about whether even Prince could overcome the negative atmosphere that had dominated the evening. Before we reveal what Prince did when he took the stage at the Blue Note that completely transformed one of the most disappointing evenings in the venue's history into one of its most legendary performances, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where everything seemed to be going wrong, but then Bamisli Jada performances, Zachary Chada performance, someone or something appeared that completely changed the entire atmosphere and outcome? How did that transformation affect everyone involved? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When Prince approached the stage, he made no grand announcements or elaborate explanations for his presence. Instead, he simply asked the sound engineer to prepare the microphone and began setting up with the press. Kind of quiet confidence that suggested he understood exactly what the evening needed and how he might provide it. His demeanor was focused but relaxed, showing no anxiety about the challenging audience or the immense pressure of trying to salvage a difficult situation. Prince began his impromptu performance not with one of his well-known hits or a flashy display of his musical versatility, but with a slow, soulful interpretation of a jazz standard that immediately demonstrated his deep understanding of the musical traditions that the Blue Note represented. His approach was respectful of the Carrie's Eisen venue's jazz heritage, while incorporating his own unique musical perspective, creating a bridge between his Bachan artistic identity and the audience's expectations. From the very first notes, the atmosphere in the Blue Note began to change dramatically. Prince's voice carried an emotional authenticity and technical skill that had been missing from the earlier performances, while his piano accompaniment revealed a sophisticated understanding of jazz harmony and improvisation that surprised even the most knowledgeable audience members. The combination of his vocal interpretation and instrumental accompaniment created the kind of intimate musical experience that the Blue Note was famous for providing. As Prince continued his performance, building from the initial jazz standard into an extended improvisation that incorporated elements of blues, soul, and funk while maintaining the essential jazz character that defined the venue's musical identity, the audience's transformation was visible and audible. People who had been restless and distracted began focusing entirely on the performance, while the earlier atmosphere of disappointment was replaced by growing excitement and appreciation. The most remarkable aspect of Prince's performance was not just its technical excellence or emotional power, but the way it seemed to unlock the musical potential that had been present in the room all evening but had remained unexpressed. Prince's authentic engagement with the music and his obvious respect for both the venue and the audience created an atmosphere where genuine artistic communication became possible again. The crowd's response evolved from polite attention to genuine engagement, and finally to the kind of enthusiastic participation that characterized the Blue Note's greatest evenings. People began responding vocally to Prince's musical phrases, creating the interactive dynamic between performer and audience that transforms a performance from entertainment into shared artistic experience. Prince's extended improvisation demonstrated not only his technical mastery across multiple musical genres, but his intuitive understanding of how to read an audience and adapt his performance to create exactly the kind of experience that would transform their disappointment into appreciation and their skepticism into genuine excitement. As the performance continued, Prince invited some of the evening's earlier performers to join him on stage, creating collaborative musical moments that allowed them to contribute to the transformed atmosphere and redeem their earlier struggles. This gesture demonstrated not only Prince's generosity as a performer, but his understanding that the evening's success would be more meaningful if it included recognition of all the artists who had attempted to provide quality entertainment. Now, I want to ask you something that might change how you think about leadership and influence. When have you seen someone transform a difficult situation not through force or authority, but through excellence and authenticity that inspired others to rise to a higher level? The most inspiring part of this story is about to unfold. The collaborative portion of Prince's performance created some of the most magical musical moments in Blue Note history, as the earlier performers found themselves inspired by Prince's energy and expertise to deliver far beyond what they had achieved in their solo sets. The atmosphere of mutual support and shared artistic excellence transformed the stage from a place where individual musicians had struggled into a space where collaborative creativity could flourish. Prince's influence extended beyond just the musical content to affect the entire social dynamic of the evening. His obvious respect for the venue, the other performers, and the audience created an atmosphere of mutual appreciation that had been missing from the earlier performances. The crowd, feeling valued and engaged rather than merely entertained, responded with the kind of enthusiasm that made the Blue Note famous among jazz venues worldwide. The evening's transformation was so complete that many audience members later described it as one of the most memorable musical experiences of their lives. The contrast between the disappointment of the earlier performances and the magic of Prince's intervention created a powerful emotional journey that demonstrated the transformative power of authentic, artistic excellence. Word of Prince's Blue Note performance spread quickly through New York's music community and eventually became legendary within jazz circles as an example of how a single exceptional performance could transform an entire evening and restore faith in the power of live music to create transcendent experiences. For the venue itself, Prince's impromptu appearance became part of Blue Note folklore, representing the kind of musical magic that distinguished great jazz venues from mere entertainment spaces. The evening demonstrated that the Blue Note's commitment to providing a platform for authentic artistic expression could attract extraordinary performances even during challenging circumstances. The other performers who had struggled earlier found that their association with such a memorable musical event actually enhanced their reputations rather than damaged them. Prince's generous inclusion of them in the collaborative portions of his performance helped transform what could have been a career setback into a positive experience. For Prince personally, the Blue Note performance represented his ability to connect with and honor jazz traditions while bringing his own unique artistic perspective to one of music's most demanding environments. The evening validated his versatility as a musician and his commitment to excellence regardless of the venue or circumstances. The impact of that August evening extended beyond the immediate participants to influence how the New York jazz community thought about the relationship between different musical genres and the potential for collaboration between artists from different backgrounds. Prince's demonstration that authentic, artistic excellence could bridge any stylistic differences inspired increased openness to musical experimentation. Today, Prince's Blue Note performance is remembered as a perfect example of how genuine artistic excellence can transform any situation and how the greatest performers possess not only technical skill and creative vision, but the ability to elevate everyone around them to achieve their highest potential. The lesson from that evening remains relevant for anyone in any field. The most powerful way to influence a difficult situation is not through force or manipulation, but through demonstrating such excellence and ideal authenticity that others are inspired to rise to a higher level themselves, creating a positive transformation that benefits everyone involved. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of Prince's most inspiring demonstrations of how authentic artistic excellence can transform disappointment into magic and create experiences that everyone in present will treasure forever. If this story inspired you to believe in the power of excellence to transform difficult situations, please subscribe and share your own experiences of witnessing transformative moments of genuine greatness in the comments below.